And I show him a picture of the knife, and he goes, "Oh my God." And he looks at it, and he's like, "That looks like a movie prop." Pat was streaming the other day, and I had just come in from getting some groceries, and I had bought some kindling because so we have some logs out there. We have an axe. I'm not allowed to use it for I don't know why. No, I'm kidding. I can't, like, I don't.
You were gonna chop wood in the fucking dark the other night.
Well, I'm not allowed to because if I do this, I'll hurt my back. My back. I don't think I've. My back is so fucked. Like I've got my cane. I can't walk for super long periods of time without resting. That's a whole other thing that I don't even want to get into yet. But yeah, so I'm like, Pat has to do it. He doesn't want to do it. Also, he's streaming. I don't want to bother him. So I just bought some kindling, right? And the kindling had like a plastic wrap around it. And this was 2 nights ago? Yeah, 2 nights ago, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'll start a fire now so that it's burning, and by the time he ends, he can like, I'll have his tea and some cheese or something ready, and we watch X-Files. I'm looking to cut up the plastic wrap around the kindling, as one would do. So most normal people can open the plastic with their hands. I can't. Number one, I've always been a very weak person. I can't do a lot. Physically, I'm not very strong. But on top of that, I have found, like, if I overexert myself too much, my back could spasm out, and it's just not good. So everything I do, I have to be very careful how much I do it and for how long or what I do. So I'm like, well, I'll just cut it open instead of rip it open. So I look, I can't find the scissors. So I'm like, oh geez. And like sometimes, like, I'll just grab a kitchen knife and open things with it. So I'm like, I'm in a rush and I'm not paying attention, shocker. And I go and I'm like, oh, whatever. And I'm like doing all this other stuff. And I grab this knife from where the knives live, right? You know the place where the knives live? Where the knives live, that's where I got this knife. And I wasn't even really looking at it, and I just grabbed it and I went like this. And I'm just like, oh, having a hard time because it was really dull. And I went, foop! And I cut that real bad right there.
Save.
And it was so bad that I think you could even hear me go, right? And Pat's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, because it's just pouring down my hand. And I'm like, and he's like, I have to go. And he goes to BRB and he comes over and he's like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, and it's like open, and you know how you can make things talk sometimes with your, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying not to be gory, but and it looked like you could see really far down. I'm trying to be vague so that I don't upset people. You know how you can see real far down? And I suddenly couldn't feel the tip. And it was really gross. And Pat was like, clean it. And I'm like, okay. And I can't move it that well. He's like, you need to go to the doctor. And I said, no. He's like, you should go to the doctor. And I'm like, I don't know. It's late. I don't like to drive at night. And he's like, no, you need to go. You need to go to the hospital. I'm like, I'm not going to the hospital because I cut my finger. And he goes, well, where's the knife? And I go, right here. And I show him this knife and he's like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, it's the knife. And he's like, what is that? And it's like this big, by the way. Like, I took a picture of it. It's on my Twitter. It's like this long. And I was just like, well, it was there.
It's also visibly rusted.
It's visibly so gross and rusted. And I was just like, why do you have that? It's not mine, I swear. I just picked it up. It was just there, Why did I use it? I just grabbed any knife. I didn't care. You guys treat me like I know what I'm doing. And though I am very smart and cool, sometimes I improvise, that's all. And I am very smart and good at everything, as you know. I just simply wasn't paying attention at that time. Yeah, it looks like the fucking Moonlight Sword. So I'm like, fine. So I drive to the hospital, and I get there, and it's a whole thing. And I get there, and they're very nice to me. And a doctor, who I won't say their name because, that's weird, and also privacy and everything. But I will say, because this is funny, the doctor's name was an actual fruit or a vegetable. He walked up and was like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Potato." And I remember I looked up at him and I was like, "What?"
Hey, that's fucked up.
I was like, "What?"
Just because he was so overtly Irish, you can't just call him Dr.
Patrick,
Potato.
no.
That's like if I had made a character up in a story named Dr. Spaghetti, who was like, "Oh no!
Stop it with Dr. Spaghetti! Stop!
Oh no! Gotta put them in a straw neon.
Stop it with the Dr. Spaghetti! It's never gonna take off. Nobody cares about Dr. Spaghetti. So I'm like, oh, and the doctor was so sweet. He comes over and he's like, "Well, let's see what's going on here." He's like, "Hey, is it okay if I open it up?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he's doing it, and I'm like, "Oh God!" And he opens it. He checks, and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "It's a deep cut, but it looks like everything's good." Because I had to explain. I'm like, "Look, the knife. My husband insisted I come because the knife is really gross, and also, I have autoimmune stuff, so we just wanted to check and make sure." He's like, "Yeah, I completely understand." Turns out it was not that. It's not great, but it's not so dire. He glued it shut, cleaned it, glued it shut, and we're talking, and he's like, "Oh, can I see a picture of that knife?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I show him a picture of the knife, and he goes, "Oh my God!" And he looks at it, and he's like, "That looks like a movie prop." And I'm like, I know. He's like, "You're getting a tetanus shot." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And he goes, "When's the last time you had your tetanus shot?" And I'm like, I don't remember. He's like, "You're getting the tetanus shot." I'm like, "Well, okay." And then the nurse comes over and is like, "What's up?" And he's like, "She's getting a tetanus shot right now." And I'm like, "Okay." So, because I'm pretty sure I had it. I think it's been over 10 years. I don't remember.
Mine was definitely more than 10
I don't
years.
have I have some records with me, that I brought with me during the move, but I didn't have them on me. I don't know. So he gave me a shot, and then I left, and it was good, and it looks like it, it's nice and bandaged up right now. Actually,
don't take that off.
Well, no, I won't show them because I think I can get in trouble if I show you because it's gross. But I do need to change it.
Yeah.
I don't know.